Oh, hello! Looks like you found me. Thank you so much for finding your way over to hear me out. Enjoy the episode. Smooches. Salam everyone, it's me, Wally, and I'm here today with our very, very first special guest, Paige.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh my god, thank you for coming. Well, I guess I'm here at your place, so I should say thank you for having me.
Yes, of course.
And as you heard, I introduced myself with a salam this time. I think I'm going to do that from now on. It means it's like a greeting in my language, so I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. I say bonjour a lot in real life, but that's whatever.
Yeah.
So today we wanted to talk about the few blog posts since our last podcast episode we had. So we're going to talk about the first poem I released, the Ready For It blog post, and Paige's guest post, Home for Christmas, which I was super excited to have her do that. And thank you for doing that. It was such a good post.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really enjoyed writing it. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear everyone's response, hopefully. Yeah. All right, so let's get to it. We'll start with the poem. I think I wrote this poem in, I want to say 2014, 2015-ish.
Okay.
When I was in acting school around that time, because that's when I started writing all the poetry in that book that I have. And clearly I was feeling some things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it was just like a lot of people telling me how I should live my life, which still happens. Mm-hmm. I don't know, I like to do things in my own way, but hearing certain things all the time, so you start to believe it.
Yeah, it's true. Like, we become who others perceive us as.
Yeah, which is kind of annoying.
It is.
But yeah, I think it was a good starter poem, because there's a lot of them that, like, eventually you'll see can get really dark and triggering. But I think that poetry is one of those things that, like, is super helpful for me, especially to, like, get those feelings out.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great outlet.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And what did you think of this poem when you first read it?
So my first thought of this poem is that it is dark, the content, and the context, but that the fact that you wrote it in couplets is kind of like playful and light, which I really like that contrast. And I think that what you're talking about in this poem is a really universal feeling of, should I be this way? Should I be that way? I want to do this, but I'm too scared. Mm-hmm. And how do I not get overwhelmed and debilitated by this feeling of emptiness that sometimes comes over us when we're trying to find our place in life?
Yeah, I think it's funny that you noticed, like, the way I made it, and like the way I wrote it and coupled it together, because I always love playing with different ways of writing.
Yeah.
Like, I always have, like, I don't think there's any poem in there that you'll see that's the exact same format.
Right.
I always, like, get an idea of writing some kind of a poem, and then I'll, like, write it and, like, do different things with the way that it's, seen or written, like, this is the couplets you said, and, like, sometimes it'll be, like, long stanzas versus other times where it's just, like, one kind of giant paragraph or something. I think it's just fun to, like, play around with all that, and I think it's, like, talking about all these things and, like, all the dark stuff that we all go through, that sometimes I feel like we all feel like we're the only ones that are feeling those things.
For sure. Which
I think can be hard.
Very hard.
And we'd have to just remind ourselves that we're not the only ones that are going through this, and that there's ways to, like, let that out, whether it's through poetry or talking to other people about it, or writing poetry and sharing that.
Exactly.
That was one of my really, like, that was really important to me to do with this blog too. Like, I didn't want it to be just about me talking the whole time, which obviously is going to be a lot of that, and I want you all to know the things that I go through and that I'm going through or that I've been through in the past, to hopefully, like, even with this poem, like, I want you all to not make sure you don't feel alone, because everyone goes through certain things. And I have to remind myself of that a lot of the times where I feel like I'm going through so much crap, and then I feel guilty for thinking that I'm, you know, important enough to like
special.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I want everyone to like out there, like the cliche, like I said, of, you know, making sure that you realize that we all go through stuff and that it's okay to talk about it and not feel judged for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think this was like you said, it is a dark poem, but it was a good starter one because it's not.
Yeah, and it's
super
not
dark.
it's not too dark at all.
No.
Like, it's not uncomfortable. I think it's also the perfect choice for the first poem that you've shared. Is this the first poem on your blog that you've shared?
This is the first poem on the blog.
Yeah.
I've shared a couple other ones on like Instagram, but like
Right.
with the caption,
Right.
but never
Yeah.
on the blog.
And I've read a few of your poems as well, like as when we are together at work or hanging out, and I really like
Some of the other ones are super dark.
Well, I really like this choice though, because it goes with like how you introduce yourself in the Hear Me Out blog, or in the I Found Wally blog. Sorry, because just talking about like, you know, introducing that your blog is about your journey and kind of how it's an ongoing discovery of self and questioning yourself and kind of reflecting on like past selves. And
well, I think that's kind of what life is all about, is like learning and unlearning your own stuff and other things in life, because I don't think you can ever stop learning, and it's okay to unlearn stuff that you've been taught and
Definitely.
realize that those are potentially wrong or not necessarily right. I think we spoke about this the first few times we were working together. I didn't realize until like this year, or was it last year? I can't remember exactly, but that the term Aboriginal, for example, isn't correct. Because it's just so normalized.
It is.
Everyone says it, and then when someone was like, "No, you should say Indigenous or Native because Aboriginal means not original," I'm like, "Holy shit, that's true!"
Yeah.
Like, I did not realize that. Because you say abnormal,
Exactly.
which is like not normal. So it's like, why do we say this for that? Like, that was crazy.
Yeah, because it is. And even growing up as an Indigenous woman, like, I used to say Aboriginal all the time because that was just the standard, the normal way to describe that type of people. And then once you look at it from that perspective, like, and we've talked about this a lot too, like the power of language and how much, you know, words really matter. And and yeah, they have a long-lasting effect, and so...
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's, like, me being, like, not from Canada and having to take the citizenship test and everything, too. Like, the wording and everything, too, it always said Aboriginal or First Nations, which I guess that's not as bad. But, again, it's not correct.
Well, First Nations it's so complicated because there's, like, Indigenous, First Nations... and Métis.
Oh, right, okay.
So it depends on, like, geographic location and also autonomy, like what you choose to identify as. I know some Indigenous people who prefer the term Aboriginal.
Oh, okay.
But they're self-proclaimed as Aboriginal.
Gotcha.
But from a colonizer, white person standpoint, if you are just grouping all Native people as Aboriginal, that's when it becomes problematic.
Okay. See, learning new things. I didn't. It's great to question all these things.
Yeah, and that kind of goes. That's so cool that you said that, because today in a group meeting that I'm a part of that is Indigenous based, we were talking about making mistakes as humans, and everyone makes mistakes. But one way to look at it from my culture is, we don't make mistakes, we just learn lessons. So even how, like, you might learn that it's wrong to call someone Aboriginal, but instead of thinking, oh, I messed up or I made that mistake, no, it's actually just a lesson, because you learn why we don't, or why we don't want you to. And
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's like when you said some people prefer the term Aboriginal, I think in a lot of ways it's like the term queer has been taken back too with the community that I'm a part of, I guess. Like, because it's been used as a derogatory term for so long.
Yeah.
I love these conversations.
Cool.
We have these conversations all the time.
We really do.
Like at work or after work.
We can go on forever.
Let's move on to the second. or the I guess the blog post for that I had ready for it. I wanted to
released.
Yes. I wanted to like talk about like how we kind of home, I guess the term home is like, what does that really mean, you know? And like I think to me it just means being comfortable in a place, whether that's home, like where you live, or it's work, wherever you can consider anything home.
Yeah.
I think sometimes a person can be your home.
Yeah, it's not always a physical space.
Yeah, and I think it's crazy to me to like, when I wrote this and I started writing it, it's funny because I started writing this and then I forgot to save it, so it went away. So to restart it, and it was a completely different. Like I had maybe started like 2, I guess, paragraphs or whatever, so it wasn't like a lot, but still, it was like. And then now it's like completely different. And I was like, I like this better. So it's like I guess that was just the universe's way of fixing things for me.
For sure.
But yeah, it's crazy to like grow up in a place and not feel your authentic self.
Yeah.
And then not feel like you can express yourself, I guess. And then finally realizing when you feel more at home that you can just be yourself and none of it really matters.
Yeah.
Gabby, my roommate, and I were just talking about this today. I used, when I lived at her mom's house for a bit before we found our own place, I used to sleep in her mom's like arts and crafts room, basically, on the cot. And one morning I woke up and Gabby was like, why is there glitter all over your face? I'm like, because I'm gay. What? I made a joke about it. And it was just because arts and crafts room has glitter all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's funny because now I've started to like wear makeup and stuff. So there's all the time there's glitter all over my face. It's like kind of like a full circle moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of me feeling more comfortable with where I'm living and where I'm working and all that. And so.
And with yourself.
Yeah,
right?
Oh, for sure.
And yeah, I've read this blog entry of yours 3 times now. So I reread it today for the 3rd time. And yeah, I was thinking to myself, like, I remember writing a poem a few years ago, and one of the lines was, I'm homesick for a place that does exist, but not in tangible ways. And it's that feeling of not feeling in tune with myself. And no matter where I am, I feel like I want to run away. And it's not knowing where my home is because I don't feel at home with myself.
Right.
And yeah, so at the end of the day, like ourselves are our home. You know?
Oh gosh, yeah. Made me feel all the feels. And like, to be honest with all of you, like this past week or so has been really weird for me emotionally. I don't know about you, but I'm sure you've noticed. So I don't want to like pretend like everything is all good and like that I'm not going to feel emotions. So if I cry, just so you know, I'm not like, and that was part of like my whole thing was like, I don't want it to always be fake positivity and preaching.
Absolutely.
Like, let's all be okay all the time, because that's not realistic.
Yeah.
So anyway, just so you all know, this past week or so has been really weird for me and emotional. So
a lot happening.
Yeah.
Lots
happening. Lots changing, I guess.
This year's really going out with a bang.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can attest to the fact that I think we were just talking before we started recording that November has just been a tough month.
Yeah.
And really challenging the notion of home. And
oh, for sure.
Yeah. I feel like it's like a common theme around
this
among the
time of year.
people
Yeah.
who I've been talking to.
Yeah.
People close to me.
And that's the other thing too. It's like I think even like I feel like was it around the beginning of the month where you were kind of feeling off and like
yes,
and
yeah.
I was feeling so much for you, and now I'm feeling kind of off,
Yeah.
and I'm like, it's crazy because we always, I think even in those moments I still think I'm the only one feeling these things,
Yeah.
and it's not like it's
all,
way
no.
better to talk about it and
It is.
get those feelings out.
Yeah.
Even though I hate talking about my feelings and emotions because I always think I'm like, why does anyone care? But it's like, no, just do it. Which is why I kind of started this blog too. Just
and
writing all
do
this
care.
time. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I need to realize that more often
Yes.
too. But yeah, this was, just talking about that and like talking about like the fact that the people you surround yourself with, if they uplift you and make you think that what you're doing isn't wrong, it's just you. Mm-hmm. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, to me, as long as I'm not going around murdering people and doing all these horrible things.
Right.
Like, why does it matter if I'm wearing a little bit of makeup or if I'm wearing a quote unquote woman's dress? Like, none of that should matter, but you know.
Yeah, and I mean, we both already know that when people have problems with things like that, it's about them and not about you.
A lot of times it's their own insecurities or whatever.
But that's hard to remember when it's directed at you and it feels like a personal attack.
Yeah. Right? I have to constantly remind myself not to go on the defensive right off the bat.
Yeah.
Because it's like that in itself kind of, I guess, is also my own insecurity of not being 1,000% comfortable.
Right.
Because if I was, then I wouldn't really care at all. But funny story, I think you were there on the day before Halloween when we were at work.
The costume?
It's just a really funny, quick story. I was wearing this, like, green dress with, like, a yellow headband with a bow on it. Mm-hmm. It was the day before Halloween, and I don't remember if I was wearing my boots with the heels. No, I was wearing the boots that I'm wearing now. So they were just, like, quote-unquote man boots, like snowshoes, I guess. I don't know.
Nothing fancy.
Yeah, nothing, like...
Super cute outfit.
Oh, thank you so much. And so anyway, so I was serving this table, and this lady looks at me as I come up to the table, and she's like, oh, I was going to say a nice costume, but I wasn't sure if it was a costume or not. And I just look at her, I'm like, oh, they're just my regular clothes. And she's like, oh, well, it's still a nice costume, like, so, like, derogatory. And I was like...
Yeah, and so dismissive of you. Like,
I just told you it wasn't...
Just said.
Also, the fact that you were saying I was going to say a nice costume, but I wasn't sure if it was, don't say it at all.
Don't say it, yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, do you think I'm this lazy? Like, what do you think this costume is? A dress and a headband? What is that? Like,
I don't even know.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. So anyway, that was just really funny to me that I'm like, is this what's making it okay for you to think that, oh, I'm, in your mind, a quote-unquote man wearing quote-unquote woman's clothing? Like, does that make it easier for you that it's a costume?
Right.
Rather than just accepting that these are just clothes?
Yeah.
On a body?
Like, because you don't understand it, do I need to...
Right.
Like, simplify it or dumb it down for you?
So yeah, that was super, super funny to me. That even, like, was a thing. I'm like, what are you saying to me?
I remember being behind the bar and I could overhear it and I was like, just cringing. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I know some of the cringe-worthy things that customers say sometimes. I'm like,
yeah, they're real.
Yeah,
it's real cringe moments.
And I've worked like retail and customer service basically my whole life, so like it's it's a big thing. Yeah. Some of the things that happens. Oh, this one time, this lady like held up her hand at my face.
No, she didn't.
And I was like, "Do you want to fight?" Like, what?
Oh my
I didn't say that. But what I said, I think exactly to her, because she was being rude to me. I was like, okay. I was like, you really don't need to be disrespectful and hold your hand up to my face.
Brutal. Like.
And then she thought I was being disrespectful to her by saying that.
Of course.
So I was like, okay, and I just went to the back room. I just like laughed and like left. Because she was only talking to the manager about her issue or whatever. It was really dumb. Yeah. Anyway. Speaking of that, this is not a great segue at all, but let's move on to Home for Christmas. Paige's...
Speaking of rude, obnoxious people.
Like the exact opposite. You're like so sweet. And I think I even said this in my intro, like that you're one of the most like easygoing people, and like I just felt so comfortable around you right off the bat. And like I felt like I could trust you, and we had like kind of super serious conversations right off the bat.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, that one night when we like both cried to each other, I think that was like my third shift with you.
Yeah, second or third.
Like it was
like
so
our
soon.
First like real one-on-one conversation.
Yeah. We like both cried, and like it was great. And then we said I love you to each other, and it was great.
It was.
It just felt so good and natural.
It felt like home.
Oh my god! That's a great segue.
Right?
Good job. I'm gonna feel all the things. So yeah, when I read this too, I felt like joy. It was so nice. What was that? What would you say? Like, why did you decide to write this?
Well, I wasn't sure what I wanted to write about when you asked me to guest star on your podcast and blog. And then you had already had your ready for it blog post written out.
Mm-hmm.
And you showed me like the rough draft. And I think we were just talking about like home and how you kind of wanted to go into that theme on your blog. And it just popped in my head like, because I don't know, throughout my life, like, even my sister sometimes, like, if we get excited and I don't know, we're just in silly moods and something good happens, Lindsay will be like, oh, Merry Christmas, even if it's like the middle of July.
Aww.
Or like, or I'll think like, so then when you were talking about home and then December was quickly approaching and Christmas was approaching, and I was like, when people say like it feels like Christmas Day, or it smells like Christmas, or oh, it feels like Christmas in here, it's like, what does that mean? And to me it means it feels like home. When I think of Christmas, I think of my family. I think of my close friends, the people I love, and feeling safe in my own house. And then as I got thinking about that, especially in a time of a global pandemic, I thought, but home is not always a safe space. And some people in the world have no choice this year but to stay home for Christmas.
Yeah.
And that could be very well not be a positive thing for them, right? And so I just wanted to talk in my blog post and kind of shed some light on like a different perspective, because as someone who deals with anxiety and depression, and I have a lot of family members who have also struggled with mental health, and Christmas has not always been like jolly good memories for me, you know? And throughout my life, I think the older I get, I realize that that's not something like I talk about openly a lot. Because when people talk about Christmas, I find it's very like, oh, I'm so excited for the holidays. Like, I already put my tree up. Like, it's very nice, warm feelings. Like, what are you going to bake? What are you going to make? What are you going to do? Who are you going to have over? And there's a lot of pressure to feel this, like, holiday spirit, you know?
Which there's nothing wrong with that necessarily if you're feeling it, but
Nothing
don't pressure anyone else to feel that way necessarily.
And like I do, I still have those positive like feelings about Christmas, but I don't want to take away from some struggles that people may have around this time of year. And I really love your idea and everything that you're doing with your podcast, and just being vulnerable and being candid and open about your humanness. Like, I find it very inspiring.
Oh my God, thank you.
What you're doing. And I just wanted, to kind of like shed some light on, you know, not everyone, like, there are some people struggling at this time of year, and it's important to be able to talk about that without judgment, and to be kind to everyone all the time, but especially around this time of year, and be patient and realize that there's a lot of stress and loneliness that comes at this time of year, and kind of just be there for each other.
Yeah,
you know?
I think one of the, like, I found, like, this post so perfect for this time of year, and I think it's great to think of Christmas and the holiday season as a positive thing, but also not take away from the stress and the mental, like, baggage that it can have potentially on people. I personally only started celebrating Christmas like 3-4 years ago. So to me, that, you know, quote unquote magic hasn't died down yet. Like, I love my Christmas presents. I love doing all that stuff. But I'm also like crazy, and I like buy 1,000 presents for literally any occasion. And
it is a very magical time of year.
Yeah, which, I mean, I'm probably also, like, only focusing on the very commercial aspect of it. But I always buy presents, like, I might do, like, a couple, like, I always buy presents that I think the person needs or wants. Even if it is, like, stuff that's, you know, not necessary. It might be stuff that they want that they might not buy for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I'm like, they might not want to spend their money on it because they're like, oh, if they're worried about money. But I'm like, if I'm buying you a present and I know you want this, but you're not going to buy it for yourself, why not?
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing.
One of your favorite, like one of my favorite lines that you said in the thing is, home is where the heart is, but sometimes the heart breaks. Because that like just resonates with me so much, and I don't know. It just felt like it just hit me in such a good, but also like, whew,
right. Yes.
a lot.
Yeah.
And I also like that you mentioned the fact that we assume that it's always a positive thing, and that we also assume that everyone celebrates Christmas.
That too.
Because that's not true. I didn't celebrate Christmas until a few years ago. And the whole like quote unquote war on Christmas is such a crazy thing to me that people make it about that.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not about that. It's like, if someone doesn't celebrate Christmas either, like you shouldn't force them to say Merry Christmas.
No.
And like, I don't necessarily, I wouldn't say that I'm super religious in any aspect or anything, but if someone truly is in a different religion, like Islam, for example, and it's considered wrong to even say it, like, you should respect that decision.
Absolutely.
But yeah, this is I love this. I think it's a perfect post, and I think that it's hopefully you all enjoyed it. I'm sure you will.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I think I love talking to you and going off on tangents about random stuff that we do all the time. And I'm sure we'll be back at some point together, or you'll have another guest spot, or we'll be on the podcast together.
Absolutely, I would love to.
I'm thinking about doing different like games and stuff too on the podcast sometime, so we'll probably introduce that at some point, and
nice.
I'm sure you'll be there.
Yeah.
I also wanted to, I guess, take this last bit of the podcast to thank everyone that that have helped me in the past little bit. I want to obviously thank Paige for helping me edit the Ready For It post, and helping me with some of the titles for things as well.
I love grammar.
Oh my god, I know. I love it. It's funny because I can see other people's like writing mistakes so easily.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I can't always see my own.
Yeah. I think it's because like sometimes when I'm reading my own stuff, I read like what I already think is there.
Right.
So it's like I read too fast and I skip over those mistakes because I know what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm happy to edit it.
It's funny because my friend...
You can edit mine.
I did.
Yeah.
There was like literally like the smallest mistakes that you probably wouldn't even notice. No, it's funny because my friend Rachel, who a lot of times will like write scripts together, or like I'll write a script and she'll help me edit it, because in my mind I think everything is like there. Or like everything totally makes sense because I know what I'm writing.
Yeah.
But then she'll read it and she's like, what is this scene? It doesn't make any sense. I'm like, well, this is what I like, what it was about. She's like, well, okay, Wally, I'm not in your head.
Yeah.
And neither is the audience.
Yeah.
So you need to make it more clear. Right. I'm like, oh, you're right. You can't read my mind. Anyway, so yeah, thank you so much, Paige, for guest blogging and guest podcasting with me.
Oh man, yeah. Thank you.
And for being who you are. I think you're one of the like newest lights in my life, and I don't ever want to lose that. And who else do I want to thank? I want to thank Rachel. I mentioned her again because she is amazing, and we always have our Tuesday meetings, which is great, and she's helped me through a lot and talking stuff out. I want to thank Josie again for creating my 2 amazing artwork pieces for the blog and the podcast. I'll be using you in the future again for sure. I want to do some stuff with Jacqueline's stuff, so hopefully that'll be fun. Yeah. And I want to thank everyone who, I can't name every single person in my life right now, but whoever just like makes me feel good and accepted and welcome, and like okay for me to be who I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone you want to thank?
Well, you. I want to thank you for being who you are.
Oh gosh.
I mean, I'm so grateful that we met.
Mm-hmm.
And I just know that we were supposed to meet. And thank you for asking me to write, because that really helped me as well on a personal level. And thank you to all of the readers and the listeners.
Yes.
And same, yeah. Just thank you. You know who you are.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
Yeah.
Thanks
I think we both are like
being my home.
Oh, that's so sweet. I think we're both also the kind of people that like if you're in our lives, you're there for a reason.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I wouldn't waste my time spending time with someone that didn't I didn't need. Anyway, so yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for finding me and hearing me out. I hope you all stay gorgeous. And anything else you want to say?
And Chimigwech.
Ooh, what's
which
that?
means big thanks in Ojibwe.
Oh, that's amazing.
And smooches.
Smooches, everyone. Thank you so much for listening.